Here. Hey, team, welcome to the Eden Army podcast. Glad you're with us here tonight. Got a special guest with us. We'll talk about him here in a second. Tonight's topic is going to be about the war in the Middle East. And, I could regurgitate a bunch of stuff off of podcasts and act like I know it all, but I really don't. Anytime I do a podcast or anything like that, I want to bring in industry experts in that field. So that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. As you all know, Hamas launched a coordinated attack on October 7th inside of the Israeli borders. They broke down the wall. They attacked the southern border of Israel, killing 1,000 plus people and taking over 200 hostages from all different nationalities, by the way. So I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is how do we miss this, much like the 9/11? And then also, did they get any help from Iran? But that's a question for another time, I imagine. So, without any further ado, the expert in the field that I've found, and a good friend of mine, a guy I trained with down in Immokalee, Florida, up in Virginia, in Daytona Beach, Florida, is my good buddy Tomer Israeli. Tomer, how are you doing, my good friend?
Hey, amazing. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, my pleasure. Real quick here, for those of us that don't know what you do and what you did in the IDF, tell us about what unit you were positioned in, and what kind of activities did you take within that unit. Of course, you don't want to give out too much information, but what type of activities did your unit, and what was your unit called?
So I was in Israeli army, an officer captain, and my specialty or most of the service was as a recon team leader, basically reconnaissance in the field. And this is what I did for 15 years as reserve and also mandatory service. And so overall, the expertise that or the conflict I was part of is in 2006 in the Second Lebanese War and, and operations outside of this period of time of the war
Well,
because yeah.
that's good to know because I have some questions about the Lebanese here in a little bit, and then we're also going to talk about some of Hezbollah stuff like that, which you probably will be very, very, very familiar with. So, so we've all heard about the terrible attacks on October 7th. What has the Israeli done? Now, there's a new front right now, a new stage in the operation. The IDF now has started moving into northern Gaza and basically have it encapsulated or surrounded, from my understanding. So, are they suffering many losses that you're aware of? The Israelis.
The Israelis relatively not suffering lots of losses compared to what expected.
Okay.
Given the circumstances when we have a fight in a extremely condensed urban populated, high populated, basically the Gaza Strip, considered the most populated urban area in the world. So when you conduct the operation over there, the expectation for casualties is going all the way up.
So they're going in, so that's good because the Israelis, in my opinion, are the best at that type of urban combat, especially some of the stuff I've learned from you, limited penetration tactics, active shooter mitigation, hostage rescue, stuff like that. You guys are 100% best in the business, in my opinion. So I would expect a low casualty count, but you're dealing with a pretty significant enemy in Hamas. They're very well trained. What are they doing in response to the incursion into Gaza? Hamas, that is.
So what Hamas is doing against the attack of Israel in Gaza?
Correct. What
Again,
what what are they doing? How are they reacting? Are they coming out and fighting? Are they running scared? What are they
okay.
doing?
So Hamas know already that the IDF have significant advantage. We are much more capable on the military side. Yeah. So Palestinians basically trying to hit and run, conducting guerrilla warfare, not really try to confront us where we are strong. They try to attack logistics, attack weakness points. Since as a big army, we are relatively predictable and big and robust, easy to track. So they basically doesn't want to fall to the trap and attack us where they are strong, coming from the tunnels, attacking us using human shield, their own population, to attack the forces, knowing that we will not attack civilians. So there is a hit and run inside the you basically human shield population. This is why the conflict takes so much time relatively, because we don't want to advance and kill innocent people.
Which is a huge difference from what Hamas does using human shields. And also, there's been reports that Hamas was stopping people from leaving the north to go into the south, uh, basically to use them as human shields. And from what I understand, and you can confirm this, once you guys have coordinated off the northern side, you still opened up an avenue for the Gazans who wanted to leave to the south to leave. Is that correct?
It's unbelievable. It's simply uh, Hamas is using their own people as a human shield, and as you mentioned, since the refugees want to get away from the war zone, they threaten them to kill them if they leave. So it's absolutely insane circumstances for for all the parties involved. Uh, so even now, almost 1 million people from the northern of Gaza left to the south. There are still around 150 to 200,000 people that still function as human shields in different locations of the northern Gaza Strip.
Wow.
Uh,
So I've
yeah,
heard, when I first saw the attacks on October 7th, what I saw was militants coming into Israel that were in full uniform, ready to stay a while. But what I also saw that was troubling to me are military aged males who were promised a certain amount of money and, from what I understand, an apartment if they went in and actually found hostages and took hostages back into Gaza. So these are not just Hamas people, but these were civilians that used this as an advantage to take people back into Gaza to get $10,000 and a payday. Basically, is that what you understand? Is that what you heard?
so basically, uh, the first wave of the attackers that went to Israel was, as you mentioned, basically well armed militia or guerrilla fighters. When they advances and took over the intersections that critical in order to move on the routes and took over the villages next to Gaza Strip inside Israel, and they opened an option for basically a mob of civilians, not armed necessarily, that came after them to basically uh, take whatever they can, hostages, or to take the tractors and steal stuff. They found most of the villagers are farmers, so they took all kinds of things, like stealing property. And some of the mob people also, unfortunately, were also participating in the massacres themselves, uh, helping out the militants that went inside. So it was a chaotic situation. Some of the people are armed, some of them are not armed eventually in the villages. So when army people came to rescue the villages, some of the people they faced were non-combatants, although
Wow.
Palestinians got to the villages to steal. So this was the mess, more or less.
So our friend, we trained with a guy down on Makali. I'll call him Instructor I. He was a member of the flotilla Shin 13, whatever, whatever. I've actually had some contact with him since this all started, and also as he actually or allegedly his unit may or may not be working actively inside of Gaza as we speak. He told me to, there's a propaganda thing going on here in the United States, as you're well aware, that a lot of these atrocities didn't actually happen, that they were made up. But he unequivocally told me that with his own eyes he saw what happened, and I'm not going to mention what happened, but the things we're hearing on the news were obviously exactly what he saw. So I'm going to talk about propaganda a little bit later, but I really right now I want to touch on your expertise about the about Hezbollah and in Lebanon. Now you told me you served a little bit in Lebanon during the war there. Hezbollah has probably changed a little bit since then. What are their capabilities right now as you see it?
So Hezbollah, in very simple words, have the ability using missiles, and I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of missiles that can hit any point in Israeli space. Okay, so basically any place in Israel it can hit with these rockets. Some of them are heavy, half a ton warheads of explosives. And this is the significant, most troublesome, up to 220 millimeter rockets that are really short distance, but in the thousands, in the hundreds of thousands, okay? And I'm not exaggerating. Like it's the most high populated rockets in the world. There's no space more armed with rockets on the world than what happened in South Lebanon.
And I would
Yeah.
say I would from what my understanding is these are rockets that actually have a guidance system that can hit within 15 meters of their target. So they're not just dummy rockets. These are guided rockets that can actually do damage to anywhere in Israel. And I think the last quote that I saw was up to 150,000 of these sophisticated rockets. Now let me ask you this, Tomer, and don't tell me something that you're not allowed to tell me. But would something like that overwhelm the Iron Dome protection system?
So first of all, if you're talking about the devastation possibility of the rockets, given your first question about the Hezbollah, these rockets are capable of devastating the economy of Israel, period, relatively in the magnitude of a nuclear bomb without the debris, without the nuclear debris. So the actual destruction of our infrastructure, for example, electricity, water supply, uh, airfields, and etc., will be as the nuclear bomb. This is one. Number two, um, I want to say something about the amount of rockets that actually, like you mentioned, have the capability to hit directly where they want to. Okay, basically, they have about 1,000 rockets that can do that.
Okay.
So we are talking about something around 3,000 rockets a day. So in this quantity of rockets a day, the Iron Dome, and by the way, not just Iron Dome, we have other technologies taking care of the rockets problem in different layers, from the aero missile that can hit a ballistic missile coming from out of space, basically, to simple rockets like happening now in Gaza. Okay, so the Iron Dome is not the only answer. We have several systems like Iron Dome for different levels of technology. But overall, a rocket costs a few hundreds or thousands of dollars, while the Iron Dome missiles cost in the tens of thousands. So if they shoot 1,000 rockets accurate, we need 1,000 Iron Dome, let's say, to hit them, we would be overwhelmed. We
Gotcha.
don't have the quantity to hit these missiles in midair. We don't have hundreds of thousands of Iron Dome, and they do. So
Right. Wow. So that's something. Why it's not on the sheet, but why do you think they haven't they haven't reacted. Do you think that the military, the two carrier groups' military presence in the Mediterranean have thwarted them from actually getting in? Because they want to come in. They would do everything in their possibility to come in. Do you think the United States, I guess my question, Tomer, do you think the United States has done enough so far for Israel? Do you think just us being in the Mediterranean with our two carrier groups is enough?
So first of all, we are very grateful in Israel for the help of the United States, period. Uh, America proved to be a strong ally and reliable ally, like no other. And I can talk on my behalf, of course, but I think on behalf of most Israelis and Jewish people around the world. So this is significant and amazing. I think America is the main reason why Hezbollah is not attacking Israel now. The fact that there are two, almost three fleets, forces from the Navy, two aircraft carriers, soon third one, a nuclear submarine, hundreds of airplanes deployed in the area in relative ability to go to the conflict. These are deterring Hezbollah from going full on Israel territory right now.
Excellent. So now we've conducted a few airstrikes within Syria based on some of the attacks that are happening on U.S. troops alone. So basically, standing our ground, if you would. Um, but the rumors that are flying around here in the United States are that basically we're just appeasing the populace by shooting warehouses, and in some cases they say even some of the militants from Iran were pre-warned about those attacks. So the casualty rate in Syria was very, very, very low. So I think our administration is kind of playing both sides of the field. They're trying to appease Iran and still trying to show their you know their ability or with their ability to stay with Israel. So that's kind of the scuttlebutt we're hearing from everybody here, that we're just not doing enough. Now there are also talks that some of U.S. troops are on the ground looking for hostages, but that's just rumor, so we're not going to speculate too much on that. But God bless them if they are. They should be. There are some American hostages being held, and it's our duty to get in there and help you guys find them whenever possible. Tomer, tell me a little bit. Let me not bounce around too much, but let me just ask you this. Israel's been surrounded by their enemies their entire existence. So this is nothing new to them. And I know the answer to this, but I want you to tell America, and I want you to tell these viewers right now, is Israel able to withstand a front from the north while at the same time taking on Gaza?
Absolutely, yes. We have the ability to confront and build up fronts in two places. We have NATO. The, the front in Gaza is sensitive from especially the humanitarian standpoint. It's a war zone, highly populated with millions of people. And among them, using as a shield Hamas militants, hiding, shooting rockets, and hold hostages. So what makes, look, what we did now in the northern of Gaza, it was beyond our expectation, the success, relative success, okay? We've been able to capture that territory in 2 weeks. It's very fast. Yet, to go to the south of Gaza now, the same people that left the north are now in the south. So now the south is even more populated, more condensed with people, with much more humanitarian sensitivities. So it will be a big challenge to please the international community regards humanitarian needs of these 2 million people, and on the other way around to get rid of Hamas once and for all and find all of our hostages, to return our hostages. So This is why there is no immediate interest for Israel to have two fronts. We
Oh,
want to put our best of our best in the conflict in the Gaza Strip. Yet, if Hezbollah will do the mistake on their end and attack us from the north, we have the forces to take care of it, even without the help of the United States. Although we appreciate and and thank America for the support. So this is basically where the situation is. I just want to elaborate about the situation. It's all Iran. It's basically Iran sits in their towns and cities undisturbed while the war in Israel, Lebanon, Gaza is in the midst of the action, and the people that actually responsible is the Iranian regime, that they are not touched. So uh, this is another front that we need to open. So after taking care of Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon, we would not have any choice and confront Iran, hopefully with the help of the United States and the rest of the alliances of NATO. Because the Iran problem is not just Israel problem. If Iran will have
I
a nuclear bomb, we are in a big problem all over the world.
well, since you brought that up, and the enemies that surround Israel, it's common knowledge they want to destroy the state of Israel. They want another genocide. They want another Holocaust. This is not even up to question, even though we're seeing some propaganda out of universities, which we'll talk about later, that are really concerning to me. So let's just play a for instance. What if Israel was no more? Where do you think these terrorists would start putting their attention toward? Because right now, these terrorists in their rhetoric are talking about Israel being the little Satan and America being the big Satan. So let's pretend Israel's no longer around anymore. What do you think that means for the United States?
Look, what I'm telling you now, it's not racism and nothing against Muslims. Okay, is a prejudice. Okay, I'm not prejudiced about it or biased. It's as simple as that. There is a big risk that these movements, jihadi movements, that not all Muslims are jihadists, but the jihadist one will attack civilization, modern civilization, liberal civilization, democratic civilization all over the world, especially in Europe. And you see that on the streets right now when they demonstrate, and instead of condemn the massacre, decapitated kids, burn people alive, basically Hamas is ISIS. They don't condemn the crime. On the contrary, they support it. So these supporters of war crimes like this one exist in Europe in a magnitude of millions. See what happening in London, Paris, Berlin, Madrid, in the hundreds of thousands in the street. Once Israel, basically Israel is the shield in many ways, holding this evil inside the Middle East. The moment Israel will stop exist, they would target Europe. It's part of their ideology to spread the jihadi movement everywhere, all the non-Muslims now. So it's beyond, it's insane. First of all, it's insane and evil, and the interest of the all the sane nations is to fight it before it's too late, especially before Iran will have the nuclear bomb. Imagine a jihadi government like that have a bomb.
I know it's unfathomable to me, and even from don't even talk about it from a religious standpoint and what beliefs you might have from a religious standpoint, but as a personal self defense standpoint for the United States, it behooves us to help Israel in any way we can, because you're right, Tomer. You guys are the shield that's protecting the rest of the world from these jihadists, and the fact that we're seeing protests saying otherwise are just insane to me. I don't understand it, but that's the new generation we're dealing with today, and we really need to open up a history book and see what this is all about, because at some point it's going to come to fruition, meaning that we're gonna see what's going on with these jihadists. So Tomer, hang tight real quick for me. I got some more questions for you. You guys out there in the audience that are watching right now, if you have any questions that you want for Tomer, please go ahead and put them in the chat. We should be pulling over the chat from YouTube also. I'm not sure about Facebook, but if we're not, I'm sorry about that. We'll get your questions answered as soon as we can. But with that being said, though, we do have to pay the bills. And our sponsor this evening is a company called Mountain Readiness. And what Mountain Readiness is, it's a bunch of like-minded people who put together a trade show in Harmony, North Carolina, at a place called Van Hoy Campgrounds. If you've never been to this or you want to know, well, look, let me stop talking about it and let me put a commercial on for the guy who actually runs the show. So bear with me, stay with me. We'll be right back with Tomer right after this break.
Hey folks, this is T, and this is Mountain Readiness.
It doesn't matter what the event is that makes this thing go pop. It's going to be water, shelter, fire, food security. That's it. That's what you need in a nutshell.
Guys, that is Mountain Readiness in a nutshell. If you've never been a part of an event like that, you are missing out. It's a great event for like-minded people, whether you're into prepping, whether you're into post-apocalyptic fiction, whether you're into homesteading, whether or not you just want to know how to forge a damn knife. This is a place to be. There's all kind of trade shows there, and we're going to be there in May along with a good friend of mine. He goes by the name of Angry American, Chris Weatherman. He'll be there also, and we'll be selling books and meeting and greeting people. So we look forward to seeing you on Mountain Readiness in May. So let's get back to Tomer. Tomer, I got a couple of quick questions for you, and then we'll let you go. And then if anybody in the audience has any questions, feel free to type them in chat now, and we'll get them answered before we let Tomer go. So Tomer, I guess the next question I have for you, I'm going to switch up a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the rhetoric or the propaganda that comes with any war. There's a large amount of propaganda coming out of the Hamas side, and what's troubling though to me is the propaganda or the rhetoric, the anti-Semitic rhetoric coming out of the United Nations right now. I want to know, Tomer, what your take is on the United Nations, and feel free to speak your mind. What your take is on the United Nations. I will tell you from a personal standpoint, that they are a drain on society, and I think they're a waste of money, and I think they're one of the most anti-Semitic organizations since the Nazis. Okay, but that's just my opinion, and that's an opinion, of course. But Tomer, I'd like to hear what you have to say about the United Nations and what you think their stance is with Israel.
So, United Nations rhetoric, basically, it's insane. It's really insane. They are judging Israel for war crimes that obviously the entity that started it with massacre of kids, decapitating babies, burn people alive in the worst kind, that we never saw since World War II Holocaust, that magnitude. So to come and condemn Israel for self-defense against these insane crimes and fight back, it's simply insane. So United Nations definitely not kept neutral about it. They took a side, and I simply don't get it. It's almost like a plant that way. You know, it's like they want to create circumstances that create an even greater problem than it's currently have. You know, it's a so this is what I feel about the situation with the United Nations. Uh, I'm not blaming the mobs in the street. They are ignorant. They may not even understand the conflict all the way. For them, it's just another conflict in the Middle East, another attack of Palestinians against Israelis, and they take a stand not based on fact. They take the stand based on being neutral about it, and obviously Israel look like the strong side in this conflict. They, if you see the casualty, in the end, the casualty uh, sides, okay? But let me give you an example that will put the conflict in a more clear way. When Britain decided back in the day to bomb Dresden in Germany, there were more German dead than British after the bombing. And they bombed, the British bombed Nazi Germany. Who is the evil? Who is the evil one over here? Germany or Britain
Right.
in that conflict?
Right.
And if you try to measure casualties by casualties, the oppressor look like it's England. But we understand they strike Nazi Germany down. This was the effort. If we look at what America did in Japan, a bomb with two nuclear bombs, and a week before, bomb Tokyo with hundreds of thousands of civilians die basically overnight just in Tokyo in the bombs. Not to talk about Nagasaki, Hiroshima, that it was in the hundreds of thousands. It's looked like America is the oppressor against Japan. But America has no choice. Knowing the way the Japanese, as fanatic as they were, okay, America had no choice. It was they will never surrender. So this situation, for people to set an opinion that is educated, they need to study, not just feeling the wind like these students in universities stand up for the Palestinians for who stand, not even knowing who are the Palestinians, what they stand up for. So this is really unfortunate. But look, this is probably the big challenge that we need to face, especially in the public relationship with the nations to be able to speak outside based on facts and not I lie about the circumstances, to be sincere and get the rest of the world support.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because right now, it seems like the media agencies are more concerned with getting the news out faster as opposed to getting the correct news out, right? So that is concerning, and that's something we're dealing with here in the United States, not just from this administration, but from past administrations. It's really problematic. Speaking about the administration and our government, let's talk about some news in the Beltway, in the Washington D.C. area. We've got some Congress people, Tomer, that are blatantly anti-Semitic and are blatantly outspoken about some of their thoughts. Does that concern you? I mean, we've seen it, of course, from the United Nations. We've seen it from Europe, but right now we're seeing it from our own lawmakers. Is that concerning to you right now? This is something that I've never seen before in my life.
This is absolutely a concern. We see that the liberal approach of giving these people, I'm talking about the jihadists, ability in the consensus, to join the consensus, to try to influence the consensus, it's really troublesome. It's only getting worse, and coming do that in America shows they have no filter even. They don't even try to hide it. They're coming directly, telling whoever wants to hear that they are interested of taking over by become demographically more influence the democracy in America as well, get inside the political system, influence more and more, and eventually generate hate against democracy itself. Because if you understand the way the mechanism of the religion of Sharia laws are, they will never be obligated for the rules of the land. Mm-hmm. They will try to enforce Sharia law on the democracy system. And this is very, very problematic.
I agree. And hopefully, and I understand that, Congress have already censured one of these people, basically saying she can't speak on the issue anymore. But it's a systemic problem that's coming out of our colleges and even our high schools that, in my opinion, it's a plan. It's been a plan all along. We've been warned that this is how they were going to attack us. And this is what liberalism is doing right now. So it's an unfortunate thing. But Tomer, I want to talk, let's switch gears a little bit here. I want to talk about what you're doing now. You're here in the United States. We're glad to have you. What are you involved with right now that you might want to tell the audience?
So we are basically counter-terror school with focus also on protection, extra protection. And we run classes that focus on these subjects. You can find courses in a variety of topics, starting for active shooter and self-defense, all the way up to SWAT training and bodyguard training. We were also participating in training for government protection teams around the world. So it's basically the Operations International. And our base is in Florida, relatively close to you, in Okeechobee. So everybody's more or less invited to see if they want to attend a class. We're very happy to have you.
Great. So I'm going to show some videos later on after we leave YouTube and Facebook and just stay on Kick as a streaming platform. But I'm going to show some videos later on of some of the training you guys do. And it's pretty intense. I mean, we've done the active shooter mitigation stuff myself, TAC 1 through 6, I guess. And that was intense. Now you're bringing in Little Bird helicopters, and I know when I took the Israeli Navy SEAL course, you only had one Little Bird down in Okeechobee. Now I see you've got two of them. What the heck, man? I guess I got to go back and take some more classes with you. Can anybody take these classes, Tomer, or do they have to be military, or can any civilians? Tell us how that works.
Okay, so we have professional courses, as I mentioned, but for the civilians without expertise or no background necessarily, I can attend the class and take one level at a time and become better and better. So you don't need a special requirement besides being a lawful citizen with ability to pass any test for obtaining a gun or gun license.
Gotcha. So if somebody was interested into getting into executive protection, would this be a good course for them to take? Is it a certified course that would help their resume to get into executive protection?
So we are currently the only school in the world that provides a teamwork live fire for their protection. So if you want to work overseas and become part of teams that protect your dignitaries in high-risk places such as Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, etc., you're probably going to find our school is a good destination to brush your skill and develop your skills to that level. And for the people that already working as professional bodyguards, definitely do the courses can be relatively significant in your resume when you're presenting and want to invest in the career as a protection. Yeah.
Excellent. So good. So if somebody wanted to take your courses, Tomer, how would they be able to get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Simply go to the website and contact us. We will try to help any type of student that wants to advance in his career. We simply talk to you, see what is your objective, and try to help you as much as we can.
Excellent. Well, Tomer Israeli, I'm proud to have you as a friend. I'm proud to have you as a brother, and just know that I always have your back regardless. Anytime you need me, you holler, and I know that it goes the same for you. I really do appreciate you coming on tonight and spending your family time with us. If nobody has any questions, I don't see anything that we haven't already answered, so that is a good thing. Tomer, I'm going to leave you, my friend, with the last word. Is there anything you want our viewers to know about the conflict? Is there anything you want our viewers to know about your training? I know I've taken many classes with you, and I can tell you unequivocally that the active shooter mitigation class that you teach is straight off of the individual warrior doctrine. It not only teaches you how to shoot and be proficient with your firearm, but also, and more importantly, puts you in the right mindset to be able to do that. And that's what, we see a lot of people that kind of bash the techniques, but you have to understand that it's a progression, it's a process, and the first part of that process is to develop the mindset to come in like a tornado that cannot be stopped, especially when you have an active shooter that's not expecting you. So, Tomer, I'm going to leave the last word with you until we quit the YouTube and Facebook live stream. We're going to stay on Kick, so anybody on Kick, stay with us, because the after show gets a little more wild. So, Tomer, last word is yours, my friend. Tell us what you'd like our listeners and viewers to know about Israeli Tactical School or the conflict in the Middle East.
Look, I think we covered the most of the basics here. First of all, I really love to train with you as well, and you're an amazing guy. And thank you for the stage you gave me over here to talk a bit about what we do. And definitely the support of Israel is critical at this time of our lives. And it's a historical moment that all of us will join together for this goal of have a sane future for our kids and grandchildren, give this generation an opportunity to thrive although the evil spread in this world, this crazy world we live in.
Tomer, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much. You have a good night, And if we have any questions, I'm sure we'll forward them to you and get them answered. But everybody, let's contact Tomer at IsraeliTacticalSchool.com. You don't have to be a Tier 1 operator to take his classes. You can be a civilian. He's going to take you from basic pistol and carbine all the way up to active shooter mitigation using what's called the individual warrior doctrine. And that's taken from the Shin Bet operators that actually were able to do some amazing things in 1985 in Rome. So if you haven't done that research, look at what some of those operators, those Shin Bet operators, did in Rome during the attempted massacre there at the airport. And I think you're going to like this doctrine. I think you're going to like the techniques, and I know you're going to like Tomer as an instructor. Tomer, I love you, my friend. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you go, guys. That's Tomer Israeli from Israeli Tactical School. Amazing guy. And he basically lays it all on the line of what's going on in the Middle East. Now, in the background, I don't know if you can hear her, but I got Tiny Tooch. Tiny Tooch, say something. See if you're coming through. No, got nothing. So listen, here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to go through a brief intermission. We're going to dump those people at YouTube and Facebook, and we're going to do the after show here on Kick. We're going to cut loose a little more and see what happens with it. So intermission, and we'll see you back. Bye-bye.